The Electoral Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela summoned for Friday the political actors that participated as candidates in the presidential elections of last July 28. The Ministry of Health in the Gaza Strip reported during the last 24 hours 35 people killed and 551 wounded as a result of Israeli occupation attacks. And Russian government spokesman Dmitry Peskov reported that preparations have intensified for the official visit the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro is scheduled to make in Russia. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos, and from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba, we begin with the news. The Electoral Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice of Venezuela summoned this Thursday for this Friday, August 2nd, the political actors that participated as candidates in the presidential elections of last July 28th, formally initiating the process of unrestricted verification of the electoral results. Let's listen.
The Electoral Chamber of the Supreme Court of the Republic of Venezuela assumes the commitment with peace, democracy, and in pursuit of the constitutional order of the Republic, guaranteeing that the will of the voters receives an effective and timely judicial protection, be published, registered, and communicated. Be it done as ordered, given, signed, and sealed in the office room of the Electoral Chamber of the Supreme Court of Justice in Caracas on August 1st of the year 2024, year 214 of the independence and 165 of the Federation.
In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro stated that the Venezuelan government is willing to resume dialogue with the United States in compliance with the Qatar agreement. Through a publication in social network X, the head of state expressed that he has always discussed if the U.S. government is willing to respect sovereignty and stop threatening Venezuela, they could return to dialogue, but based on a single point: Qatar compliance. This is the record of the negotiations, he said. And the text of the agreement states that following the holding of presidential elections and the inauguration of the president-elect, Washington would unfreeze the assets of the Venezuelan government currently frozen in the United States. It further stated that the United States would lift all sanctions and designations and would revoke all executive orders based on the national emergency declared by the United States with respect to Venezuelan nation. Similarly, Qatar's compliance indicates that the United Platform of Venezuela and the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela would reject any form of violence in the exercise of politics and any type of actions In this context, the constitutional president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, denounced the fake news media campaign against the country generated by the United States. Concerning the pressure of the hegemonic communication outlets to disregard the electoral results, the Venezuelan head of state revealed that there is a fake news laboratory operating from the U.S. In this context, the president stressed that Venezuela won't fall in the hands of imperialism, fascism, or criminals. Likewise, the leader reaffirmed his commitment to defend Venezuela's sovereignty and protect its people from the U.S. imperialist advances.
This whole campaign is fully based on fake news. We have already seen these fake news in the ongoing conflicts in Syria and Ukraine. I don't know if you have seen this particular fake news, as there are several, and they are being spread all over the world, and people see it and believe it, because it is elaborate.
And from the People's Balcony, President Maduro informed on Friday, August 2nd, that the electoral power would be in charge of the review of the tally sheets thanks to the electoral appeal filed. During a meeting with the Popular Force of the Local Supply and Protection Committees, the Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro denounced the national and international extreme right wing for financing criminal groups to create chaos and unrest in the country. In this sense, the Venezuelan head of state informed that so far 1,200 people have been captured after the acts of violence registered in the country during the last 3 days after the extreme right wing lost the elections. On the other hand, the re-elected president expressed that on Friday the electoral power would be in charge of proving the facts by means of the electoral appeal he filed before the Supreme Court of Justice on Wednesday. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, denounced the acts of vandalism that the extreme right wing is carrying out in the country to undermine the peace and tarnish the results of July 28th elections, in which President Maduro was announced as a winner. Saab also reported on the investigations that are being carried out against the perpetrators of these acts of vandalism, stating that the public prosecutor's office is currently looking into each of these criminal groups. In this context, the governments of Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico extended their solidarity with Venezuela and urged the nation to follow institutional channels with regard to the impartial verification of Sunday's election results. In this sense, Brazil, Colombia, and Mexico expressed their absolute respect for the sovereignty of the will of the Venezuelan people, reaffirming their willingness to provide support in the dialogues and agreements that benefit the nation. Thus, they urged the electoral authorities of Venezuela to advance and publish the data broken down by each polling station, reiterating that they will remain attentive to the process of ballot counting. Now let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The General Secretary of the Lebanese Islamic Resistance Movement, Hezbollah, Sayed Hassan Nasrallah, denounced on Thursday that Israel is carrying out an operation of deception and fraud to blame the Shiite militia for the murder of 12 people in the Majal Shams without evidence. Nasrallah recalled that the explosion in the Druze town of Majal Shams was caused by an Israeli interceptor missile, and stated that the occupation does not want to admit it in order to exonerate its army of such a crime and try to escalate the conflict in the Middle East. He also stressed that this crime is part of the Israeli-American nation war in the region, the aggression of the occupation, and the battle being waged to the north of the occupied Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, on Thursday, the Ministry of Health in the Gaza Strip reported that during the last 24 hours, 35 people have been killed and 551 have been wounded as a result of Israeli occupation attacks. In this sense, the health ministry denounced that the constant bombardment and strafing of the Zionist entity continue to hinder the work of rescue teams whose members are trying to access the bodies trapped under the rubble on the roads, which are estimated to be at about 10,000. The Israeli army led an attack in the southern Gaza against a group of civilians near the Kuwait traffic circle, resulting in 1 death and several wounded. The Israeli occupation also targeted the west of Rafah city in southern Gaza and areas of Al-Maghazi and Al-Masdar refugee camps in Central Strip. Meanwhile, in Yemen, massive demonstrations in several cities of the country ratified their support to the struggle of the Palestinian people. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered on Friday in the city of Sada and in other localities such as Marib, Amram, and Taiz, among others. The rallies was held under the slogan "Loyalty to the Blood of Martyrs with Gaza until Victory," and paid homage to Palestinian leader Ismail Haniyeh and Lebanese commander Fouad Shukr. The demonstrators waved Yemeni and Palestinian flags while uttering chants against the crimes of the Israeli regime and of the United States. And in Iran, thousands of people attended a funeral ceremony to honor Hamas Palestinian leader Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated by the Israeli regime in an attack against his residence in Tehran. On Thursday, the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, led the prayers to bid farewell to the political leader and his bodyguard, Wasim Abu Shaban. Their remains were draped with the Palestinian flags during the ceremony held in the courtyard of Tehran University, which was attended by President Mahmoud Pezeshkian, senior Iranian military, and officials from the resistance movement. Ismail Haniyeh was in Tehran to participate in the inauguration of the new president, which took place on Tuesday. Now we move on to other topics. In Russia, announced that Moscow is ready to negotiate with Kiev, but only if they receive concrete guarantees on national security and the country's sovereignty. During a press conference, the agency noted that the Kremlin is ready to enter in peace negotiations with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, taking into account the current situation on the battlefield. He also asserted that Kiev will also have to comply in the agreements with the national security guarantees made by Russian President Vladimir Putin. So far, Ukraine has made the cessation of hostilities conditional on the recovery of all territories, including Crimea, having been outnumbered in combat by the Russian troops despite the armed support provided by the United States and NATO states. And on Thursday, the European Union's new law to regulate artificial intelligence came into force. This law, considered an unprecedented legislation worldwide, aims at fostering innovative in Europe and limiting potential abuses of this new technology. The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, expressed in her X account that this law is Europe's pioneering framework for innovation and safe artificial intelligence. She added that it would drive an AI development that Europeans can trust and provide support to European small and medium enterprises and startups to bring cutting-edge AI solutions to the market. Now we have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience. You can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and also share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Russian government spokesman Dmitry Peskov reported that preparations have intensified for the official visit that the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is scheduled to make to Russia. Peskov indicated that the visit was already being prepared, but the agenda is coordinated due to the electoral campaign in Venezuela. He added that now that Maduro has won the elections, it could be assumed that the preparations would be more active and that the visit would take place when the leaders consider it convenient. In Nigeria, Kawuri villagers held a funeral ceremony for 19 fatalities of a bomb attack that occurred last Wednesday night. The explosion took place in a market in northeastern Nigeria, where the extremist group Boko Haram and its offshoot, the Islamic State in West Africa province, operate. 22 people were injured in the attack and admitted to various government hospitals in the Borno state. Boko Haram and other extremist groups have killed more than 35,000 people and caused an estimated of 2.7 million internally displaced people, mostly in Nigeria, but also in neighboring countries such as Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, according to government and UN data. In other news, in a press release, the circuit and microprocessors manufacturer Intel announced that it would cut some 15,000 jobs as part of a cost-cutting plan. The layoff move was announced immediately after the release of Intel's second quarter financial results, which revealed a loss of $1.6 billion. The announced layoffs amount to 15% of the corporation's workforce, and according to CEO Pat Gelsinger, in a letter to the employees, the measures contained in the restructuring plan would be implemented until the end of 2024. The technology corporation expects, with the implementation of this measure, to achieve $10 billion in savings and increase the company's efficiency and competitiveness. Also, a New York appeal court on Thursday denied former U.S. President Donald Trump's request to remove the gag order in the criminal case in which he is accused of paying to conceal damaging information. The decision came a day after Trump's lawyers attempted to file papers asking the appeals court to immediately lift the gag order. Since the decision was imminent, the court rejected the filing of papers, which called the restrictions an unconditional obstacle interfering with the election to Trump's freedom of speech. The court rejected the Republicans' argument that his sentence issued in May constituted a change in circumstances, justifying the removal of the restrictions. We stay in the United States as a letter dated Wednesday, July 31st. 46 U.S. congressmen urged President Biden to reverse the designation of Cuba as a country allegedly sponsoring terrorism. The letter, copied to Secretary of State Antony Blinken, expresses the concern of the members of the legislature over the arbitrary measure against Cuba, which fulfilled its commitments as guarantor of the peace talks process in Colombia. The signatories argued that the peace process also depends on the willingness of other countries to serve as guarantors of the talks. The congressmen are concerned that the Trump administration's decision to designate Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism may make it difficult to identify those countries, and they urge Biden to reverse that designation. In other news, Bolivia's armed forces officially discharged former army commander Juan José Zúñiga and 4 other former military chiefs involved in the failed coup d'etat of June 26. The Superior Personnel Court of the Armed Forces ordered the discharge of 5 generals who participated in the attempt coup against President Luis Arce without pay or rank after conducting an investigation. The Minister of Defense, Edmundo Novillo, informed that the other military of lower rank included in the investigation are also processed in summary proceedings in their respective forces, and between this Friday and Saturday, it is expected that they will issue the resolutions with the corresponding sanctions. We move now to sports. 6 days after the Olympic Games of Paris 2024, representatives of South American countries bring new medals to their homelands. Starting the day, the Ecuadorian Daniel Pintado won a gold medal in the race walking. From the Brazilian delegation, Rebecca Andrade got a silver medal in artistic gymnastics, and Cuban Erislandi Alvarez classified to the boxing finals, ensuring a medal for the Caribbean country. Meanwhile, the Chinese delegation leads the medal tally with a total of 24, 11 gold, 7 silver, and 6 bronze medals. Then follows a delegation from the US with 9 gold medals plus 15 silver and 13 bronze for a total of 37 awards. And in third place, the hosting nation, France, has 8 gold medals, 11 silver, and 8 bronze, which makes a total of 27 medals. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.